This is Inside Mside, your favorite podcast for all things Morningside. Hear stories from students, alumni, faculty, and more about what makes the Morningside experience so special.
Hello. Welcome to Inside Mside. I'm one of your hosts, Alisanne, and today we are going to hear from a faculty member and some of our students who work on the Morningside Review. I'll pass it off to you guys to introduce yourselves. Brendan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm Brendan Todt, assistant professor in humanities. I teach creative writing. Also, I handle a lot of the CIC classes with the first-year students, and I got to teach English 353, which was editing and publishing with these two.
I'm Paige Stockfeld. I'm a junior. I'm a double major in English and criminal justice, and I'm from Omaha.
Wonderful.
I'm Elaine Clark. I'm an English and Spanish double major. I'm from Wausau, Nebraska.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for coming on the podcast today. We were really excited. Last semester, they had a fabulous party where they got to show us all the Morningside Review. It was really awesome, and they just do incredible work, so we definitely wanted to feature them on the podcast. So I did a little history lesson about the Morningside Review, and it was originally born in 1962 and then was brought back in 2020. And I mean, now you guys have been back at it. This is year 5, I believe. So I am just interested about, when you guys look, what's the process of developing? I know that's probably a loaded question, but what's the process of developing the Morningside Review?
Well, you probably expect there to be an answer that there was a process, and she's laughing because she recognizes there wasn't a set process at the beginning. So, I don't want to take over, but if I kind of asked a question: how do we want this to look? We look at previous issues, and there are lots of tools available to us, and we try to figure out what kind of direction the students wanted to go. So what did you all decide?
I think we got really lucky with the kids in our class, honestly. This was your first time doing it, to actually have to take over doing the Morningside Review, the newest edition. And we really just looked at all of the previous classes that have done this before and kind of saw what we were working with and what we could build off of. And we completely 180'd all of the previous editions. So I think it really was just all of us looking at what has been done before and being like, we can do better. And so we just put that effort in and then tried to make that happen pretty much.
And it's all relative, because when we had that conversation at the beginning of the semester, we didn't know how we would do it, what tools we would use. We ended up using Canva. We'll probably talk about that later. But I did not learn really how to use Canva until our administrative assistant in humanities taught me, say 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And so otherwise, what other classes we're working with would have been behind paywalls, or they wouldn't have had access to that sort of thing. So we had opportunities that then we felt like we were able to take advantage of without some of the obstacles that would have been around in the past.
And Brendan, a question for you, your role in the editorial process, what does that look like? How do you balance? I mean, something I ask even coaches this a lot is, how do you balance the mentoring, but also allowing the students to take ownership of their own work?
Yeah, I think we left it pretty open-ended at the beginning, and I had a sense of, well, what if this was web-based? And so I was thinking, we have all the Google Suite, so what if this was Google Sites? And we were using that because sometimes WordPress can be tricky. But I was thinking of something web-embedded, and then pass it off to the students to do some mock-ups, and I was like, wait, is that a website? No, it's a PDF, but we can just link to it. And it was built through Canva, just the model. And so they were bringing ideas to me that I hadn't even considered. So if I think of Canva, I think of social media, little images or things like that, and nothing that would have been on that sort of scale. So they were bringing a lot of the ideas, and honestly, the expertise within those tools sometimes to me. But I really tried to let them do it. Probably the one place where I overstepped was with Elaine, because we had teams. Paige was part of the content team, and then we had a design team. So the design team was prepping and not too busy for the first part of the semester. And then they got really busy. And then Paige can probably talk about the content team and what you did in selecting work and then revising that work. And then we can come back to like how Elaine and I work together and what I might do differently in the future.
Yeah, I mean, for the content side of things, we like the way you split it up for us made it very functional in a way that we were able to put like our full effort into a small amount of papers as opposed to all of the ones that were submitted. Right. So my group got maybe 4 different papers that we got to kind of sort through, and all of the papers are obviously so good. Like they're all college level papers, so it's very hard to try and make a standard for what we're looking for. Our biggest thing that helped us was that a lot of them were from a certain major. So it was really easy for us to be like, well, we need to pick the best from this major and then tap into some other ones that were being offered pretty much, even if they need more editing, just because we wanted a variety to be put out. And it was pretty easy for my group to just come together and be like, what did you think about all of these? Which one would be the easiest for us to just lightly touch up and then send off instead of having to spend weeks shaping it into what we want? It was really easy to just all kind of agree on what we wanted and then go through. The main issue was what's too much editing and what isn't enough editing. I know me, I definitely got carried away, and Brendan had to go in and be like, we don't need that or that. But it was definitely a learning process for all of us, and I think there's a lot of value in being able to tap into somebody else's work and keep it as their work, but also improve it in ways that would also benefit it as a whole in the Morningside review.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we're talking content. We'll get to you, Elaine. But yeah, so there's
kind of like how the class was.
Yeah, exactly. So we recognize what Paige is kind of getting into is there are lots of things you could do, but we want to keep the writer's authentic voice. And so a lot of Paige's comments is like, you're here, so I'll pick on you. We're right on, but then that's true, but does that then begin to change the voice? And so we're talking about technology. We're using Google Docs. And so I can go in, and as a teacher, it's useful because I can say, wow, I have 85 comments from Paige, but this student, I have 12. But you can go in and reconcile them, and they're all suggestions. And then I'm sort of, that's a little bit of the editorial license that I exercised was they put all their suggestions in, and I'm reconciling, yes, that's APA, not MLA, like this or that.
Yes.
And then trying to keep things consistent and try to honor the voice of the original writer. But again, the Google Suite is a tool that's really useful. And especially if you were to go back to 2020 when they're doing this for the first time, probably around, but probably not as embedded in what we're doing at Morningside. And it's maybe everybody's working on individual Word documents and you've got to put them all together. And the collaborative nature of the cloud-based tech that we're using was really useful for this class. And then this was a learning opportunity. Paige alluded to the fact that it was my first time teaching it, which I was not shy about. I think everybody sort of recognized that. And I try to create a place where the students are free to try. I don't like the word fail, maybe, but try. It doesn't work out quite as much. That was true of me. I would like to have given Elaine probably more autonomy at the beginning of the semester. I advise Kiosk here. Those roles are very clear. I feel very comfortable about what I do as the faculty advisor and what my student editor-in-chief does and not stepping on toes. Because this was a brand new project for me, I feel like I probably was a little bit like the associate editors and content and design. I was like leaving them alone, but I was maybe treading on Elaine's turf a little bit more, like honestly, than I would have liked.
Yeah.
And so you can talk about that, and maybe I'm a creative writing teacher. I workshop. So, I mean, if the feedback you have is great, we can do it live here. But there are things that I would totally iterate and change, if that were to come up again.
Yeah. I definitely think Brendan's just too hard on himself. It wasn't that bad. It was more like we started a new project, a new thing that not only was it his first time teaching, but it was also something that we were trying to reinvent from what was already there.
Yep.
And him knowing how to be a faculty advisor for something, but then not knowing how to do this project. He had the background, but not really. I have no idea what I was doing. So it was nice to like, oh, I'm watching him like, okay, these are things that I can start doing. So then by the end of the semester or class, he definitely, stepped aside and like, hey, here you go. So it was nice. It was a learning curve for both of us, for all of us. And then I got to put in my input, and I felt more, instead of just blindly leading the blind, I had maybe like glasses on now. So it was nice to have like the mentor and then do it on my own.
And you were clutch in some of the things you caught at the end, because if you've worked on a project like this where you're seeing the text so often and so things just become blurry or blind to you, and like we're emailing a ton. So the workload was probably, if you would have distributed it across the semester, would have been reasonable, but then it was very intense in the last week or 10 days before that launch party. And then also with Kiosk, we have the infrastructure where you can start as a reader, an associate editor, and then you become editor-in-chief. And we didn't have that built into the culture here. So everyone is new to that role.
And I mean, we're talking about Kiosk. We'll get to Kiosk in a little bit.
Sorry.
But no, you're good. You're all good. But like similar to that, like I'm interested from the students, like what skills or like just overall lessons that you've gained from doing the Morningside review. I think it's always good to have like good takeaways. So from you guys, what would you guys will stick with you in the future?
This year's Morningside review is my greatest accomplishment so far.
That's awesome.
And I think I'm an oldest sibling, so I know how to give criticism. But now I know how to do it professionally and not sound mean about it. Definitely learning how to, hey, can we check in on this? But then also, okay, I see you're doing your work. I can give that person space. It's kind of the learning how to manage people, but not micromanage. At the beginning of the semester, like I was going in and checking what people were doing, like, oh, these people have these comments are these problems across all the papers, and then at the end we're like, okay, well, what about this? What if we could do it this way? Is there a way that we could do it like this? Well, we missed this thing. Is there a way that we can incorporate it? So kind of like leading without being on top of, being overbearing.
I mean, one big thing I learned was just how much easier the process became after we split it up a little bit. Like we all were collectively looking at the different articles in class as an entire group and trying to catch things in it or keep the class focused on, hey, we're going through this entire thing. And it wasn't until we split up the articles to different groups that it felt like all of us held a little bit more responsibility of how this comes out is because of us. And so people started putting in a lot more effort, and they started caring more because they knew that their name was going to be under what they're putting out there and editing, and it's not something that you can just sit and tell other people, yeah, you can do that, it works, when we all are a part of this and it is going to follow all of us. So it's just very important to make sure you're still participating when it's such a big group setting, I feel like. And it's a good skill to have and to learn from it.
And then I guess, like, Brendan, from you, where do you see the Morningside Review headed in the next few years? Are there any new directions or goals that you're excited about from now doing it for the first time and moving forward?
Yeah, now that I feel halfway competent with Canva, I'm sure new technology will come out in the next, because this is a class that runs every other fall. So in 2 years, who knows what we'll be using. I think it's really just leaving it to the students, and then you're trying to be the buffer, because they brought a lot of the ideas. And we'll do a shout out for Taylor Cole, who knew way more about Canva than I did and was capable of teaching me and also helping out some students. In the future, I think it's really just, having that same conversation. What do you want to do? Sometimes Kiosk editors-in-chief want to go back and do an homage to the past. So maybe that means simplifying. Maybe that means now we add video, or we do animate. Who knows what's going to happen? I think the thing that would be most useful for me is navigating the workflow, especially with my editor-in-chief. And then we had open conversations throughout the semester. As a student, I was often skeptical of group work, but I saw, especially in the cloud-based world, once they were all working in a Google Doc or once they were all working in Canva and you saw the different cursors, the different people floating around, wow, this is actually really productive. And so I would start getting that process involved way earlier, let them collaborate earlier. That would also maybe preserve an assignment or two that we had to let go. But it seemed I wanted the priority to be with this, and this is sort of working in a real life kind of situation. Students write a lot in other classes, but maybe they don't get to do something like this. So then we made this a priority, and I was willing to let an assignment or two go. But I think with better scheduling, a better sense of the timing, well, you're all learning stuff. I'm learning stuff too. So I'd say that's probably the most practical thing.
And then you've mentioned it a few times, Kiosk.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. So I have some good news. In fact, I'm going to read from you from a subject line from an email we got from Sigma Tau Delta, which is the English Honor Society. So Dr. Jen Peterson is the advisor for that. In the past, advisors have sent Kiosk to contests and stuff, and a lot of times you have to pay a subscription fee to belong to the conference or the membership, whatever. I was not a huge fan of that. I'm kind of skeptical of external motivators, but we found out that Sigma Tau has built into our membership, which we have already, a literary magazine award, which last year's Kiosk earned a first prize in. So the email that we got was Sigma Tau Delta Society Inc. wants to pay you, and we don't get emails like that in our lives. But this is for the PDF that we submitted of the magazine of 24-25, and that was just like really exciting. And we get $500. And what I love about the way Sigma Tau does this is that those $500 are expected to not go toward normal operating costs, but fund some different thing that you want to do. And so this was not from last year's issue, but Paige actually was involved in this Kiosk project from a while ago. But in a nonfiction class that I taught, I asked them to make like hermit crab essays or other types of essays that exist in a form other than just text on a page. Hers was a receipt, which people on campus really liked. So we printed it out and stuck it in as a stuffer into that magazine. And so this year we think we'd like to get some handmade paper. Because our editor-in-chief wants to do kind of resist the AI push and kind of go old school. And so we're now in the process of sourcing some handmade paper that we would use as the insert. Because I don't know if we were going to be able to do that. It was a conversation. Handmade paper is labor intensive. It's kind of expensive. And then we got an email. We want to pay you. And so it seemed perfect. And I also love that Sigma Tau makes it that this year's Kiosk is ineligible for next year's project because I'm not a huge extrinsic reward kind of person. So we can forget about it. And I never really even mentioned it to those editors, but it's a nice thing that we can do for free. But I think it's kind of just this environment that we try to foster is like, go for it. You know, some magazines, some Kiosks, some Morningside review will sort of seem better than others, but you can get a lot of learning out of those, even if the product is sort of different.
Well, yeah, they're just different in the end of the day. So it's definitely different outlets for whichever you want to fill your cup with. So both are very cool. I'm also a writer. That's my job here. So I always appreciate when Kiosk and the Morningside Review comes out. So.
Well, can I shout out you and everyone else here with Crone, because we had people from University Engagement come and talk to us. And this was not part of the Morningside Review, but it was part of the editing and publishing class. And so one of the assignments that we did get to fit in was everyone had to write a blog, and everyone had to send that blog to University Engagement. And maybe it got published and maybe it didn't, but that was sort of
most of them
like
did.
a real life experience. And it's not, I have to write this thing for Brendan. Well, who cares? Like, no, like someone else is going to lay eyes on this. And Paige talked about once we saw it in Canva, then it became real. We know our names are attached to it. And that was really kind of fun. Because a couple students got, the clear on the first go, but several had to work through it. And I didn't get involved unless they wanted me to get involved. I just asked to be on the email chain. And that was really satisfying. So thanks to you.
Yeah.
And the next time I teach the class, if I get to, we'll definitely keep that relationship.
Yeah, I loved it because if you visit our website, you can find those blogs and they're fun stuff. They're stuff that's it's written by students for students. It was fun things to do on the weekends and good places to eat around Sioux City that a college kid can afford. So I had a lot of fun getting to read those and publish those on the website. And it's cool to have your work there too. So yeah, well, thank you all for sitting down with me.
You.
I love getting to talk about students and the activities that they're in and things outside of just, outside of classes, but also this has to do with class. And it's just a cool project that you guys get to do. So thank you guys so much for sitting with me.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, listen to anywhere you get your podcast, and we'll see you next time.